Darren, sorry. We'll figure it out. Hey guys, we're live with our small business spotlight today with Dr. Darrien Jamar. Darrien, welcome to the show. Darrien is a good friend of mine. I've known him, it's been roughly 2.5 years now, I think, since we first met.
For sure.
Yeah. Wow, it's been a while. All right, cool.
Let's observed it all the time since, but yes, it has been 2 years, 2.5.
Yeah, awesome, man. So Darrien is actually a chiropractor and a Reiki practitioner, and I have had the pleasure of doing a session with Darrien, and it was very interesting. And I can let him talk more about Reiki in general, and then I'll go into my experience. But Darrien, tell me more about what it's like as a Reiki practitioner, as a chiropractor, what you do with clients, how do you work with them?
Yes, well, I think probably the biggest part of what I do, I would say, is the education piece. A lot of people enter either chiropractic or Reiki or even life coaching with a lot of questions, right? They don't quite understand. They've heard from their friends, different people in their lives, whether good experience, whether bad. And so my role is really just to bring awareness to the benefits of all of it. And I think in a nutshell, they all in their own way leads back to helping someone feel more whole, more aligned, more connected, and in tune with themselves. Whether that is aligning or adjusting someone's spine, whether that is balancing or reconnecting someone's energy centers or chakras, or even guiding someone through a difficult life situation or transition or season in their life. They're all elements that really help to keep someone connected to themselves, helping them to live their life with a lot more grace and wholeness and well-being.
That's awesome, man. And I know when we spoke a while ago, we talked about energy and the energy flow, like you just said. We don't even realize when that energy is blocked or when that energy is being constrained in places in our bodies.
Right.
And it's really cool to be able to feel that kind of release when you do that, when it's just, it's like, wow, I didn't realize that was there, like it's an interesting feeling. And so there's an interesting, I think it's really cool that you have that blend of both the physical with the chiropractic and the energetic with the Reiki. What's that like with you when you work with clients? Like how do you kind of meld those two together?
Right. Yeah. So it depends on how one starts with me, whether they start with chiropractic and, everything is a lot more physical, right? We're talking about your shoulders. We're talking about your lower back. You got some tightness in your hips. How to navigate that, whether it's, of course, it's usually getting adjusted, chiropractic alignments, series of treatment there, maybe some cupping work, helping to relieve tight muscles, fascia, increasing blood flow, so on and so forth. Recommending different exercises. It's a lot more. Usually the chiropractic conversation is a lot more attainable for someone because it makes sense usually in their mind. But over time, as treatment goes, sometimes I'll get a hunch early on in their session, in the treatment. Depending on the person, I may bring it up then, or I'll wait until I'm more comfortable, we have rapport. But usually if something lingers, then I know it's a lot more energetic. It's an energetic connection. For instance, I have a patient I'm working with. I think she's been under care for about 10 weeks now, and she still has this lingering right shoulder issue. And when I first started working with her, I sensed it then, but now that we're at the very end of the treatment, it's like she's to this point where I'm able to engage that conversation and talk about the connection between unprocessed emotions and something that may have happened in her life 5 years ago when she started to have that right shoulder pain. So we've been navigating the conversation of considering things like Reiki, working with me, or acupuncture, or emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. So that's more the chiropractic side and how that may lead to other things. And then on the side of Reiki, usually with Reiki, it's when someone enters, again, depending on where they're coming from, they may be a healer themselves, or they may have been on this type of healing journey. And so the language is a lot more attainable for them. But if there's someone that's coming out and they're going through a breathing moment or so on and so forth, usually we're just navigating, keeping the conversation centered to their chakras, their energy centers, and leading from there. But it's always for me where the person is and doing my best to meet them there with the language and allowing the process to unfold and grow over time.
That's awesome, man. I think, when you think about energy, people don't generally talk about energy the way that people in Reiki practitioners, like they talk about it, right? And so when you get that feeling for someone, what is that like for you? How does that come up for you? Like when you get like, oh, there's something else going on here. Like, what does that feel like for you?
Yeah, so I like how you're asking that question, because that goes back to my side of, my personal journey and being able to trust the things that are coming up and showing up. And so now I'm to this place where it's like, I trust the hunches, the instincts that, they just seem to come out of nowhere. Sometimes, like one day I had a person show up in the office and her energy it was heavier, it was denser. And something was just like, I asked her about her siblings. And she was like, wow, like, how did you know? That's what she was having the issue with, was her brother. It was like, it just came to me and I just listened to it and I just followed through. So a lot of it comes up as this sense, as this hunch, as this, sometimes if I don't respect it or ask the question or say it, it'll continue to be there. And so over time, I've just learned to trust what comes up, whether it's as a thought, whether it's as a feeling in my chest. Like I had a Reiki session, Reiki and life coaching session earlier, separately. And before, I just sat in the energy, I sat in a meditation where I was just envisioning them. And over time, I've been doing it for a while. So it helps me get a sense of where someone is energetically. And again, I've had to learn to trust that this is real, right? What I'm doing, my journey has brought me to a point of believing it. And so you're so true when you talk about energy, is like, nowadays there's the two extremes. There are the people who are very much so in the work, doing it, they believe in it, they're healers themselves. And there's the people that's, they're on the fad or the trend side, where they're just, oh, I don't trust that person's energy. And it's like, when you talk about energy, it's a lot deeper than we are making it out to be. Like there's the energy connection in your thoughts, and how those thoughts have been showing up in these subtle ways and these circumstances that have been there all your life. And that's where the Reiki part comes in, helping you bring exposure, awareness to this thought pattern that has been invading your life for maybe 10 or so years. And that's the deeper level of like energy work, versus like, oh, I feel blocked in my chest. Yes, that's energy, but my side of it is like how pulling someone back and really being able to untether or break apart these patterns that's causing their life to be out of balance in these small but often major ways.
Yeah. No, in coaching we call it level 3 listening, right? It's like where you're there with the client, you're kind of like feeling the energy, you're playing off each other's energy, right? And you're sharing that energy, so you're like on a journey together,
Right.
And it's when you get in that zone, it's not quite the same thing as Reiki, obviously, but it's similar, kind of tapping into that similar energy, right? Where sometimes you get a sense, you get an intuition with the client, and at least for me, like I'm like, sometimes I'll just be like, I got this idea to ask this question. Like I get this urge to ask this question, and it's out of left field, right? It doesn't have anything to do with what we talked about. And I'm like, I'm getting this sense. How does that resonate with you? And like, oh, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's happening over here, and I guess that might be, and it's just, it's really interesting. But I feel like, in society right now, we get such a strong focus on the physical, right?
For
and
sure.
It's not real. Something is not real unless it's physical, manifested somehow, right? I mean, like it's fine, it's up in your head, until it's it's destroying your shoulder, or it's like it's affecting your heart, or it's affecting your blood work is coming up as this way or that way, and it's really stress or like energetically related. But if you're not dealing with that, then it's gonna keep, like you said, it keeps coming up, like that one with the shoulder issue.
Right.
So for you, I just thought back to what I said at the beginning of this session, and I called you him. My bad. My bad.
It's okay. We already talked about the grace.
But that brings up a good transition. And so I do want to mention, so that you are you did identify as non-binary, right? But I'm actually curious, because I just thought about this question. How did that manifest for you energetically when you were kind of figuring that out, versus when you realized that for yourself? Was there a shift in your energy when you did that for yourself, or was that just kind of, did you always kind of feel it?
Well, I think it was on two different levels. I think there was a lot of confusion, a lot of smokiness, cloudiness, and that's often the energy that people bring to a Reiki session, right? Where they're trying to navigate something. And for me, it wasn't a Reiki session, but it was a moment that helped me diffuse some of that confusions when I was I was a comm major. I was taking a gender studies class, and there was this chapter on gender, sex versus gender. And we started to learn about gender being socially constructed, and how society has made these associations between being male, female, boy, girl, and this being for boys, this being for girls. And then it got to the neutral section, and it was just I remember being in a class where I was. It was just a class day where we were just reading. We weren't doing actual work. And I was like, wow, that's me. I'm there. And it was nothing that I never spoke about it to anyone else. It was just a private moment that I had to myself. Meanwhile, I never really said anything to anyone else. And so fast forward, it's been 9 years now, maybe. And over time, the universe has brought these situations and people in my life that have been probing me. I'm like, what are your pronouns? And it's like, yes, people call me he, but I actually haven't declared it outwardly. And so the last person that really encouraged me and gave me courage to finally make a stand and, the importance of language and being and encouraging others to call you what you feel like you are inside. When I made that shift, it's brought me a lot of power in being able to finally be free in any and every circumstance, and also just being able to say, no, these are my pronouns. This is the way I identify, versus before just being in this neutral lane. Even though inwardly I made that shift and decision a while ago. So hopefully, in one way or another, answer your question. But definitely been two different types of shifts.
Yeah, no, and that's that's really, first of all, really, really empowering and brave for you to do that, right? Because a lot of people kind of still feel that what are people going to say if I say this or whatever, and kind of like that hesitance to do that, right? So I mean, I think that's awesome that you can do that, and you came out to do that to people and let them know, like, hey, this is how I identify, right? I appreciate it if you call me this. And we had a quick conversation before the stream started, and I still called you he, him, whatever, right?
Right.
But and it's like, I like the way that you framed it, though. It was like, you're gonna let people know, and it's like kind of on them at that point, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, you're gonna, because I know some people who make it like it's something out there, right? It's not like something I have to deal with because everybody in my circle is quote unquote normal, right? But it's like, it's not about being normal and not normal. It's not abnormal. It's just how somebody feels, So like, there's a lot of that. And until people realize that's like, that person is one, a person, and two, they exist in real life. They're not just somebody you see on TV,
right?
They're everywhere, right? Like there's regular people. Right. I think that's where we start to get to the point where it's like normalized. Because I think a lot of this, you see all this trash on Twitter, which I need to get off Twitter, I really. But like,
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot about Twitter.
But you know what? It's like, I keep saying it and I'm still on Twitter, right? So like, but you see all this stuff. It's like, and it's like, oh, this, that, like whatever. And they're acting, people on there are acting like it's some foreign alien country that's dealing with this situation. They're not acting like it's like real people dealing with it, know? And I think that's, first of all, I like I said, I'm glad that you took that step for yourself, but I also appreciate you sharing that with us here and people watching, because I think it's important for people to know that those are real people. You know what I mean? Like, you're a real person dealing with this, and you're a real business owner dealing with this too. You know what I mean? It's not like, you're some person on the street, like hanging out and just like, working a regular job. You're actually a business owner contributing to society, helping other people with their lives, And yeah, so thank you for that.
And that brings a lot for me to actually step into it more fully. It's like, I'm coaching or guiding people to live their truth. And I think for me, that I had pushed that aside once I came to some realization, so that I could, work on the things that seemed more pertinent at the time. And it's like, oh, this kept coming back up to my awareness. Like, okay, now I got to deal with this again, this unfinished business, so to speak. And since then, I've come to realize that, like I think I said before we went live, it's been a lot more work than I would realize it was going to be. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I declare this, make a post on Instagram, I'll move on. And then I'm like, wait, now I have to, gently let people know, like, oh, actually my pronouns. So there's work in doing that. And then it's like some people don't get it. So there's education, or some people, they still use the different pronouns, and it's, falling back. I was like, oh, it's okay. Like, we're all learning. So it's just this dichotomy of energy that's going on at the same time. And like you said, I'm still showing up. I have to show up for other people. I'm still living my life in this other way. And now although it's been a beautiful thing, it's still work involved. And I mean, that's been my life's work. It's been work. So I accept it.
Right. I mean, we're all ever evolving and always trying to do work on ourselves. Right. And I think that's interesting that it kept coming up for you. Like it's like you said, though, you listen to the intuition when it comes to other clients. You got to listen to it for yourself too. Right. And
Sure.
so that's awesome, man. So as we're coming up on toward the near end of this great stream here, I want to ask you a couple questions about your inspiration and how you got here, to your journey to get to where you're at right now. I mean, I know for me personally, I don't wake up when I was 15 and say I want to become a leadership coach, right? So what was it like for you? How did you get to where you're at right now, where as a chiropractor and a Reiki practitioner? What was your journey like?
Right. So I always go back to pretty much undergrad, where I think where my initiation started in terms of, really steering me in this direction that I didn't know I was going, but as the universe was leading me, I started making this turn. And so by the end of undergrad, after putting myself through college, it was just and I still put myself through college physically, financially, but also emotionally, spiritually. It just took a lot of energy. And so by the time I finished, I was just very drained and just desperate for healing. I knew that wasn't the state that I was in. I knew that wasn't my best, and I knew it wasn't what life had called me to be my norm. And so I was just in an open state of asking, for guidance. And what came up was chiropractic. I literally asked the universe, God, source, what's next for me? And chiropractic just came to me. And so I began to research, what's chiropractic? And lo and behold, the philosophy of chiropractic was everything I've always believed in about the body being able to heal itself, that we have within us the tools and the resources. We just need the proper environment. And so it was with that understanding, it was with that truth that I really followed and packed my 2-door Acura coupe up, and I drove 10 hours to Marietta, Georgia. And, even in doing that at the time, people were asking me, how long have you thought about being a chiropractor? And I lied for at least 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I always thought about being one. Like, I was lying. I never even met one. But that was my way of, navigating that moment, because I didn't have the language. I didn't have the awareness to really explain to people. But now I know that, again, that's guidance, that's intuition, that's instincts that was leading me. And so I stand in that power and that truth now, because that's what I'm coaching other people to do. That's what I'm guiding other people to do, is to listen to themselves, without hindrance and without doubting and questioning. And if there is that doubting and questioning, figuring out where that's coming from, whether it's a voice from their past or, whatever the source is. So going back to my story, I followed that hunch, and that it just opened up so many doors in terms of, I also had this hunch, or this gravitation towards Reiki even before I became trained. And the story of how I became trained is another story in itself, so I'm not going to go into that. I learned that the same university where I was getting my doctorate in chiropractic also offered a master's in positive psychology. I always had a fascination for psychology since my first AP psychology class, I think my junior year of high school. And so I was like, wow, this is a moment for me to step into that. So I did it. It was a positive psychology course, but on the coaching track. So that's where I really became credentialed as a coach, and just learning more about how to use those skills to help people navigate their lives. And so that's how my healing story began. And then from there, it's been, I keep saying, it's been at least 3 years of graduating school, being in work, meeting you, doing networking. But it took some time. It's taken some time for me to really surrender to, this is my calling, at least at this point in my life. This is what I was meant to do. I had other plans and dreams that were more at the forefront of my awareness. And so it's taken a while for me to let go of those things and know that this is the flow that I need to be in. And as I've surrendered to that, things have just been unfolding in such a beautiful way. And I have a lot of peace now, a lot of clarity, and life is just moving forward without all this unnecessary resistance. I'm being in the flow versus, thinking about the flow or talking about the flow, kind of like what you talked about with level 3 listening. When you're moving with things and things are coming up, you're listening, you're responding, you're moving forward, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think all of us, especially business owners, can can relate to that moment where it's like, oh, what made you want to do this? And you got to lie and be like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. Of course, this is my dream. Since I was 3 years old. It's like a talk, and it's like, no, not really. Like I just kind of fell into this, right? Like it's something that happened over time. Like, and it just, like you said, is the universe is kind of like showing you ways to get to where you want to get to, and it's whether you want to listen to it or not. So I love that, dude. But yeah, no. So as we wrap up here, we got a couple seconds left. But I want to ask you the question that I always ask everybody nowadays, which is, for you, who are the most influential people? Maybe like one or two, even top three if you want, influential people in your life, and how did they influence you on your journey?
For sure, I would have to say my great grandma Hattie. She is 102 years and living. She'll be 103 in December. I want to say December 12th, but I could be wrong. But she's the inspiration behind my work, whether chiropractic, Reiki. She's the inspiration behind all of that. I always said she was the first person that really saw me in a way that I didn't understand in the moments when I was around her. But instinctively, even as a high school, middle school kid, I always loved being around her. I would go to her house and she would tell me the same stories over and over and over. And after a while, I was just like, all right, I know what story you're about to tell. But in doing that, she was teaching me things. Sometimes even when I'm coaching, I'm afraid to talk about the same things over and over. But I've learned from her is like we need that repetition. We don't get things automatically. And so she's just been the inspiration for seeing myself fully. She's been an inspiration for my approach when I'm coaching and through Reiki, just using storytelling and not being afraid of wisdom, not seeing it as this having to be old, quote unquote. Like wisdom is a beautiful thing. We need wisdom. We need to be attentive and mindful of our life experiences, whether not just our life experiences, but other people. So there's a humility that come out of that. And that's all that I am. I love moments like this, learning from you, sharing what I know, getting other people's knowledge. Each Reiki session or moment that I have with sharing energy with someone, whether life coaching, Reiki, or chiropractic, it's not only helping them, but it's also helping me in so many ways. And so I would definitely say my great grandma Hattie, who again, she's 102 years old and still living. Like the 100-year lifestyle is becoming more and more reality these days. So I'm grateful to be here and to be in a position of empowering people to be whole and to take advantage of their health in all the different ways, mind, body, and spirit.
I love that, man. I think that's a great way to end, because I think that's pretty much the pinnacle of what we're trying to get to, right? So, Darrien, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Your stories, honestly, like I said, it's inspiring, something a lot of people can relate to, especially as business owners out there doing our thing. And wishing you all the best. And thank you, everybody who wants to reach out to Darrien. We'll put their information. See, I got it. Put their information into the description below. Please feel free to reach out to them if you have any questions, if you're curious about Reiki, curious about chiropractic, and how to blend those together. Because like I said, I think that's a beautiful thing, to blend the physical and the metaphysical together. So thanks again, Darrien. Everybody take care, stay safe. Share this to somebody who you want to share this with, who might resonate with it. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Take care and stay safe.